Today we're going to take a look at our latest release, Isolation. Now, Isolation came about as a reaction to the whole COVID-19 situation, and in particular the lockdown measures. I should first say I do support the lockdown measures, I do follow the measures, and I think you should as well. But there's no denying they are very hard for many of us, and this track is, I guess, my way to get a bit of the frustration out. And yeah, the track is in a much harder style than I usually make, and I felt that was appropriate for this. And I was also listening to a lot of music by bands like SITD, XRX, Alien Vampires, Suicide Commando, yeah, all of those good old bands in that genre, and that also, I think, you might hear have influenced the track. So let's have a look at the track. Alright, so here we have the track open in Ableton Live. It's my software of choice for both producing, recording and mixing. And just in case you haven't heard the track before, I'm gonna play through the first verse and the chorus. And then the chorus. Now in Ableton Live there's two views, so this is the arrangements view. It's very similar to what you see in most audio production software, but they also have the session view, which is great for live performances, and I also really like it for songwriting, because you can just record a bunch of different clips for the different instruments, and also for recorded audio, and play around and see what fits together and test different ideas before you commit to an actual arrangement. So the first thing I did for this track was to write the groove, the main bass line and the kick and everything. So the kick is of course very important. The main part of the kick is here. It's in a kick synthesizer called Kick 2 from Sonic Academy. I like this a lot. What I did, I found a preset I like, and then I tweaked it to how I wanted to have it. I don't remember exactly what I did, but at least I changed the amp envelope a bit to make it sit better with the bass. So if you just listen to the main thump kick, we have some reverb as well. It's quite dry. Then I wanted to have some distortion and overdrive on it to make it crunch. Instead of adding that here, I just duplicated the entire thing. And then here the amp envelope is slightly different again. But here I added all the distortion. So I have one layer with just the thump and one with the distortion, because then it makes it a lot easier to mix it exactly how I want it. And then I've added, yeah, some different stuff here to get it a bit more boomy and a bit more attack with the transient shaper, and yeah, lots of stuff, but that's not important really. So we work this together. Now the rest of the drums are in two channels. I normally have like one channel for normal percussion and one for noise percussion, basically. I just chopped up noise samples and stuff. For this track it's mostly straightforward dance type percussion. So I have this one here. And then another one here, a bit more noisy, but it's basically, I could have had both of those in just the same drum rack, really. Together. And then I have different variations. For different parts of the track. So with the kick and the bass. Next up is the bass. Now you can see I have two layers, or two tracks. I have the sub and the noisy bass. Normally I always use a separate sub, but for this one actually I found the sub on this bass so nice that I just didn't bother with the sub in the end when I mixed it. So this is actually just one instrument then, which sounds like this. It's in Anna 2, which is a very good software synthesizer that I like a lot. Also happens to be from Sonic Academy. Sounds like this. Again, I used a preset. I changed it a little bit, but mainly the changes are actually from outside of the kicks or the synth itself. So here you can hear it after coming out of Anna 2. And then I run it through a guitar amp to give it some crunch. Some saturation in Ableton Saturator. Another amp. And then here you can hear I'm really picking out the presence. If I disable this. This is automated quite a lot in the track as well. And yeah, what are these doing? Okay, so this is side chaining the bass from the kick in a multiband compressor from FabFilter, and this one is just doing some regular multiband compression. Now for the lead, it's actually the same lead playing throughout most of the song. It's built up of different layers. We'll just listen to it as it plays in the chorus. So here's the main part of it. It has this detuned, very wide one, and this almost guitarish one. Together they sound like this. You can see this is also going through an amp, and this one is going through quite a bit of heavy saturation. And of course during mixing I had to compress it and EQ it and stuff. That's not very interesting here. And I also have this one to give it a really focused center. So without it, it's kind of washy, and with this one, it's a lot more defined. And then finally, I actually have a bit of piano. I can almost not hear it in the final mix. I decided to mix it down so low, but it gives it a bit more body, I think so. Now, before we start looking at the vocals, I think we should jump back into the arrangement view and listen to the piano that Tom recorded. So he was quarantining at home as well, and I sent him just the notes for this, and he played it back with a bit more life than I can do here, because he's a much better piano player than me. So here's the intro that he played. So you can hear there's a lot of movement in it, both with regards to volume and tempo, and it changes up a bit. So I think it's really nice. Makes for a very acoustic intro before the hard beat comes in. And then you can hear the same theme playing in the outro. But in the outro, we decided to keep it on the beat, so it doesn't change the tempo anything at all. And that's because the song has to be easy to mix out of for DJs. So in the beginning of a track, the DJ is free to start. So if you're gonna mix this one into a set, you probably start when the beat comes in. But it's a lot harder to mix out of a track, so we wanted to keep this one in time. So here it's actually played to a metronome. But still it's played live and feels a lot more acoustic than what would have been the case if we just programmed everything. Now that we're in the arrangement view, I think it's a good time to look at the vocals as well. As you can see, all these yellow ones are vocal tracks, and they are actually I recorded in the set. Usually I record in a different set and then I do comping in a different set, but for this one I just recorded everything in the set, so that's why it's a lot of small clips. So for the verse I have 3 layers of vocals. I have the main one, the one called Shouty.
Quarantine inside my head as I dance with the dead.
And then I have the growly one.
Quarantine inside my head as I dance with the dead.
And then I have this cleaner one just to make the vocals a bit easier to understand.
Quarantine inside my head.
So if we listen to all of it.
Quarantine inside my head as I dance with the dead.
If I mute this intelligibility layer, it's harder
I feel
to...
the walls creeping up on me and the ceiling descends.
It's harder to discern the words. In the chorus I have a few extra layers. So I have this air layer.
Isolation.
Just to give it a bit more top end. I also have 2 whisper layers. So this is like some really sounds like some harsh electro stuff. If I only had this layer, it would be a lot more like harsh electro than what it is here. I also have this very hard tune just to the root note of the song.
Isolation.
So I hope SITD don't sue me for this.
Panic Nation.
It's very much inspired by them. But if you put all of it together,
Isolation. Mental disintegration.
yeah, so quite a lot of layers there, and yeah, delays and whatnot. So the shouty one is
Isolation.
the solo, the shouty one, and mute some of the stuff here.
Isolation.
So that's just EQ'd and compressed, and then with the saturator,
Isolation.
and again the amp,
Isolation.
and there's some multi-band compression here. Yeah, that's just de-essing, and yeah, again, give it more presence and like easier to hear. Yeah, lots of stuff going on here. This intelligibility layer is basically the same as the shouty one without all the noisy amps and saturators and everything. The air layer is also the same, really. Just very high passed. And the whisper ones, they're actually using a vocoder with a noise carrier. So I did whisper the track, but then I also run it through a vocoder with a noise carrier. And through an amp, so with it. And an overdrive. And the growly one is also actually using like 50% wet vocoder and an amp. Let's take off these.
Isolation.
That's fairly clean. Then I have the noisy, or the vocoder with the noise carrier, at 50%. And an amp. And then here in the, this is an effect track with frequency shifters. So I have one shifted down a bit, one shifted up, and one clean. A classic trick to make it even more noisy. And lots of automation here at the end. And then finally the tune layer, just using Waves Tune to tune it super hard to the root note, and yeah, some saturation. The same trick with frequency shifters again, an overdrive and an amp on it.
Isolation.
So yeah, that's it.
Isolation.
That's everything together.
Panic Nation.
So the final group is the SFX group, and this is usually a lot larger in my productions. For this one I went with a super simple, just very dance music oriented crashes and risers, and this Psytrance sample I found, which I really liked. Yeah, and one thing I like to do with my risers sometimes is just cut them short a little bit. So if you do it, say if you take it with the music here, you can hear it stops a little bit early. It just gives even more impact when the music comes in again. And yeah, that's basically what's going on for all of this track really in the SFX department. Now finally, let's have a look at the arrangements, and especially how the leads in the different parts compare to each other musically. So the intro and outro, of course, stand out. They're very different from the rest of the song. Give it a bit of sadness as opposed to the aggression of the rest of the song. And also this soft intro makes the impacts of the beat coming in very pronounced, I think. Then I want to say a few things about the lead, because in the chorus the lead is very on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't get like more on the beat than that really, and it gives it a very marching like quality, almost militaristic, very good for stomping on the dance floor. The verse as well is not as much as in the chorus, because the chorus is the main like stomping. Now you want everything to go in time, right? The verse is a bit more varied, but it's still very much on the beat. 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. But then this groove part, which comes in here, and it comes in here and here a few times throughout the song, it's very different. It's more syncopated, not on the beat. It gives it a lot more of a bouncy feeling. You could almost imagine like the brass section playing this in a funk song or something. With it. So it gives it a lot more like bouncy, dancey thing. And then when you come into the verse, and then especially in the chorus, it's just like stomp 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think that gives it a good variation in the leads. And yeah, in the chorus it's like everything is just 1, 2, 3, 4 on the beat, stomp, marching with the vocals as well, coming in on the 1 all the time. So if you just do the leads and the vocals in the chorus.
Isolation.
2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Isolation.
Yeah, so just stomping away.
Mental disintegration.
And then it's a bit more groovy again. And yeah, I think that's all that is to say about the arrangement, or that I want to say now at least. So thanks for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed the track.